on the one level, this is just Trump's MO. The second he's confronted with something or someone that he thinks makes him look bad, his immediate response is to pretend that he's never heard of or met this person in their lives, despite the fact that literally dozens of people who worked for him worked on this giant policy document that's been put out by the Heritage Foundation. I think that the fact that he is distancing himself, he knows that it is unpopular. I don't think he probably knows the specifics of what's in it. I doubt that he has seen the exact polling on it, but I think that it speaks to the fact that, like Republican policies for decades at this point, when voters learn what they actually are, they're deeply unpopular. Many of the pieces inside Project 2025, which as a whole seek to dismantle the federal government as we know it, it's the anti-deep state playbook filled with all sorts of other wild conservative wish list items that have been swirling around the GOP for a long time now. But the fact that they're all put into one place conveniently for us to be able to look at and to show to voters and be like, here's what they want to do. Here's their blueprint for what they want whoever the next GOP president is to do. That's become deeply problematic for the GOP. They can't really stand behind their own policies. And so that's why you see Trump sort of trying to push it away. Like it's one of the nice things about being a cult of personality. The policies don't matter as much as the person. So if the person can get away with saying, you know what, I just focus on me, look at my face, don't read the thing, just look at me. If that can work, he's going to go for it.
Joyce, you have spent a lot of time on Project 2025 over the last few weeks and months trying to educate and inform people of what's really in this thing. What do you think is the most dangerous component?
That's a tough question, Steph. You know, I've been writing about this since last November when we first learned of its existence. It's nothing new, by the way. Heritage has put this together for different administrations. Trump had a playbook in 2016. Ronald Reagan had a playbook. But this one is unique because it promotes this very new notion. It used to be a fringe Republican idea of a unitary, powerful executive that really overwhelms the other two branches of government, supposedly co-equal, perhaps with some complicity from the Supreme Court, to allow the president to straight line towards these hardcore sorts of Republican goals. You mentioned one, getting rid of the Department of Education, which doesn't really seem like a great idea to people who, for instance, believe that Head Start or funding for special education is a good idea. So the real problem with Project 2025 is that it's 900 plus pages. And I think the folks at the Heritage Foundation and others count on the fact that very few people will sit down and study 900 plus pages of policy written in the very banal tones of policymakers. But when you look at each chapter, chapters are written by different people with expertise. Over 80% of them, people who were involved in Trump's administration. They advocate for radical policy changes that will diminish the rights that Americans now enjoy. Calls for a total ban, for instance, on abortion, making the interstate shipment of mifepristone, the abortion drug used by over half of American women who get abortions, making that illegal. So the important takeaway here is that this is Trump's plan. And to Hayes' point about Trump's efforts to sort of distance himself from the plan, the Biden campaign this afternoon posted video on Twitter of the Heritage Foundation's president saying it's okay that Trump is trying to distance himself from this plan. We know he needs to do that to get elected. In essence, he's saying it is okay for Trump to lie about this and acknowledging that it is not just Heritage's plan, it is Trump's too. We know what's coming if Trump is reelected. Now it's up to us as voters to reject it.
And this is the big head scratcher to me then, Claire. If this manifesto is so unpopular, if it is so off-putting, why on earth would they have published it to begin with? Why not keep it in their back pocket? Donald Trump wins, and after he does, whip it out and say, all right, I'm about to drop the hammer with it. This seems like a massive self-inflicted wound.
Yeah, well, remember, there's two kinds of officials that served in the Trump administration last time. The first kind are all those that are refusing to endorse him and say he shouldn't be reelected. And the second kind decamped to the Heritage Foundation to write a plan so that he could get done next time what they failed to do last time. He had some guardrails last time. He had some members of his cabinet, some members of his staff that pushed back and said, you can't do that. You can't call the military out on protesters. You can't just shoot people at the border. You can't do that. And this time, they don't want to have that problem. They want to make sure they have the people ready to staff the government that will do exactly what's in Project 2025. They want to make sure they have the plans down. And frankly, they're banking on the fact that it is dense and long, and that's not how people consume information, especially the voters that Trump is worried about right now. Remember, Biden and Trump aren't going for the heart of the Republican Party or the heart of the Democratic Party right now. Those are set in stone. They're going for the margins. That's how this next president is going to get elected, on the margins. So we can talk about disarray in the Democratic Party, and we can talk about the crazy MAGA cult, but really it's folks that really are not happy with their choices, that don't call themselves either party, that will decide this election in three places: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan.
Jamelle, do you think people have really paid attention to the consequences of a second Trump presidency?
No, I don't. I think they're thinking that people are being alarmist, but they just need to refer to 2016. And I would ask all those people, particularly the ones who just couldn't bring themselves to vote for Hillary Clinton, but her emails people, but the I don't trust her, but she's not likable people, knowing what you know today, given the fact that the Supreme Court is now very much Donald Trump's Supreme Court. Would you have traded you standing on ceremony, you trying to prove a point for what we see today? And I have a feeling a lot of those people would. The crime of it is that a lot of those same people are signing up to make the same mistake all over again. And I agree with Claire. See, last time you had a couple people that might talk a little bit of sense into him and might make sure that the very worst thoughts in his mind wouldn't actually come to fruition. You will not have that this time around. So it's going to go right from this scary place, which is his brain, to his mouth, right into policy. And I think people need to understand that. You asked the question, Stephanie, at the beginning of this about why would the Republicans allow this to be known about Project 2025 now when we're this close to the election and they're exposing their playbook. My question is, why haven't the Democrats been hammering this from the beginning? Because y'all just touched on the smaller parts of this. There's a ton of stuff in here that those fringe groups that Claire was discussing would be very interested to know. Like, I'm sure members of the military would love to know that there's this plan in Project 2025 to completely gut military health care and especially military retirement benefits. You think they might want to know that? I think they would. And sometimes what happens in politics is that people begin to talk so far above the heads of the people who are actually voting. You got to make it plain and you got to make it simple. Simple thing is, yes, national ban on abortion. Another simple thing is that already we see how DEI is being wiped out. It'll be non-existent. To those Black voters who do not understand all of the things that are in this and how it would directly impact them, one of them is coming after the civil servants. Black people make up a huge amount of the civil servant workforce. This is something that will directly impact you. So shout out to Taraji B. Henson, the actor, because at the BET Awards, she talked about Project 2025, and you should see what the search engine did, because she did it at an entertainment award show where the audience that it needs to reach needs to hear about what's in that. So my question again is, yeah, the Republicans made a mistake by letting this be known. Why haven't the Democrats made them pay for it?
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.